I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play.
What's going on, guys? JK, I'm back with another video, and the combine is officially over. Day 4 just wrapped up with the offensive lineman, and I'm going to give you my 4 biggest winners from the NFL Combine Day 4 with the offensive lineman. But before we get into it, please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agree or disagree with that I talk about in here, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content that I'm going to be putting out, whether it's NFL draft, NFL free agency coming up, pro days. So please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for all that content I'm gonna be putting out. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so starting out with the number one guy that I think rose his stock the most and had the biggest impact on himself throughout this combine, and today is Armand Membu, the tackle from Missouri. Before this, he was kind of like a mid first round pick. A lot of people have him mocked to either the Seahawks at 17 or the Miami Dolphins at 13. Now, after this, I think he's going to be an early first round pick. I think he could definitely be considered in the top 10. I think his ceiling right now is the fourth overall pick. His vertical was a 34. He ran a 4.91. His broad jump was 9.7. And it was really just his athletic ability and him being able to come out and show how well and be able to match it on tape with the athletic ability that he puts on tape. With the breakdowns that I've done, if you haven't watched those, please go back on my channel and watch those. I've done it on Ahmed Membu breakdown, and he's definitely more of the athletic zone type scheme blocker, and it definitely showed out today in the combine, and he definitely turned a lot of heads throughout this, and you could see he might be able to play tackle because he's going to be athletic enough. Some people view him as a guard, maybe an Elijah Vera Tucker type build that could play guard or tackle. In my opinion, after today, I think he's going to be able to play tackle and play right tackle at a very high level. I think he could go all the way up and be picked by the Patriots at the fourth overall pick. I think they could end up going to a team maybe like the Jaguars that may want another tackle to protect Trevor Lawrence. I think he could go to the Jets. The Jets need a right tackle. The Jets don't have a right tackle currently on their roster. And I do think that he could even go to the Bears at 10, or maybe even the Saints that want to replace Trevor Penning. And with him being able to kind of match up on tape what he does with his athleticism, I think that's really what rose his stock as well throughout this process. And especially with him being able to, just be able to complete his outside zone type scheme blocking in most of this. So I think he's overall the biggest riser from the combine on the offensive line. The second guy that I think rose his stock after day 4 of the offensive line is Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel's from North Dakota State, and he's been rising his stock the entire offseason. He kind of started out as like a second round guy, and then after the Senior Bowl, a lot of people started to have him in the first round. Before the combine, he was seen kind of a late first round. A lot of people, me personally, I had him to like the Packers or the Vikings. A lot of people thought he was going to go kind of that mid 20s area. Now, I think he's jumped up to the middle of the first round. I'm a big fan of Gray's Abel and what he's been able to do. At the Senior Bowl, he pretty much didn't lose a single pass rep or any reps at all throughout that entire Senior Bowl week. And a lot of people want to go up against Gray's Abel because he was pretty much shutting down everybody and putting everybody on work during those practices and just showing off his ability. I think he could go all the way up at pick number 10 to the Bears. The Bears usually do need an interior offensive lineman, and Gray's able. He's not going to be a tackle in the NFL. Let me just put that out there right now. But he's definitely going to be an interior offensive lineman. He's either going to be a guard or a center. I think he's going to be a very high level center, and the Bears, if they ended up taking him, I think he'd play guard, and they definitely do need the interior offensive line help. It would be a dream. Maybe the Dolphins end up taking him in that area. They need interior offensive line help to be able to protect Tua. The Seahawks is another team. He came out and he had 36.5-inch vertical, and he ended up having a 9.3 broad jump. He didn't run the 40, but with him being able in that mirror drill and on all the field drills, he was able to show his quick feet and his balance that he has, that showed up on tape, and he was able to pretty much just be able to show off his strong base and his great technique of his footwork to be able to show it in the mirror drills. Also, with him being able to move in the pools, a lot of the pooling drills where he was able to go around the center and get to that next level, he showed off how well he's able to move in his athleticism and that aspect as well, because he moved very well and he was one of the best pulling looking guys at the combine to be able to pull and get where he needs to. And I think he's definitely rose his stock up a lot ever since the Senior Bowl and with this combine. as a total. He's definitely, in my opinion, moved himself into the first round. A lot of these teams are going to be offensive line hungry, and they need to protect their quarterbacks. That's kind of just seen with the Eagles. A lot of teams are going to try to be replicating what the Eagles did: strong offensive line, strong defensive line. So a lot of these teams are definitely going to be trying to take offensive linemen in this weaker kind of thought of draft class with a lot of weird, questionable guys that could be interiors, could be tackles, and Gray Zabel kind of gives you an outline of where he's going to be, and kind of there's no really question whether is he's going to be a tackle. No, he's either going to be a guard or center, and you know what you're getting with him whenever you pick him. So moving on to the third guy that I think rose his stock from the NFL Combine day four is Jared Wilson. Jared Wilson was a center at Georgia, and he's a guy that definitely waited on his turn. He was at Georgia and kind of sat on the bench for 2 to 3 years, and then once Brocken left a couple of years ago, Jared Wilson was able to kind of step in this year and play that role of the Georgia center, and he played it at a very high rate. He obviously wasn't one of these guys that was highly recruited out of high school and was brought in and was a 3 year starter at the program. No, he waited. He took his turn. He developed, and he ended up taking over in the SEC for Georgia. And he was one of the best centers in the SEC. Before the combine, he was kind of seen as a third round pick. Now I think he's moved more into that second round area, and he even has the ceiling overall. I think he could be taken the early second round. Some people are even talking about he could go into the late first round area, maybe to like a Chiefs. Um, Before Trey Smith ended up getting tagged, maybe to a Ravens that desperately need offensive line help. So he's more that center, in their type build, and he's going to be able to go in and make an immediate impact on a team that could end up taking a chance on him. I do think, even though a lot of people have him going in the late first or have been talking about him going in the late first now after the combine, I do think that early second is kind of the cushion for him there, and the highest that he could go, maybe to a team that desperately needs offensive line in that early second. Maybe the Giants. John Michael Schmitz hasn't really been working out as well. He could be moved out to guard and have the Jarrett Wilson come in and take over for him. He had a 32-inch vertical and a 9.4 broad jumper. Where he really shined was to show his athletic ability, was his speed. He had one of the fastest 40 times out of any offensive lineman in history. I think he was top three in fastest or top five in fastest offensive line 40 times. He ran a 4.84, which is unbelievably fast for an offensive lineman. You almost rarely never see these scores with him being in the top five in history at the combine. And with him being able to show off his quick feet in a lot of these drills, him being that center, you definitely want the center to be able to move a lot. And if you're able to have a center that can pull and move like Jared Wilson does, it's a huge impact on your offense. You're able to pretty much just get better angles on the offensive line front. You're able to get them out in space and be able to climb up to that second level, even sometimes to the safety. And it's a huge advantage if you can get a center that can move around and be able to make a lot of those blocks on a lot of the pulls and just get a lot of just movement in general from side to side and a lot of the outside zone schemes that a lot of NFL teams like to run now. As you could see with the Eagles and Jason Kelsey was a huge advantage for the Eagles with how he was able to move. Jared Wilson's kind of similar to that. He's able to move very quickly. He's very quick offensive lineman. And as you can see with his 40 time, also as soon as Jason Kelsey goes, Cam Jurgens is able to step in for the Eagles and be a massive advantage kind of in that same way. So Jared Wilson is a pick for a team that's definitely going to be able to step in right away. I think he could be kind of an impact to how Creed Humphrey was for the Chiefs a couple of years ago when they took him in the second round and he was able to come in, be day one starter and have a huge impact from day one. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be as good as Creed Humphrey because we don't have that level of, foundation in Jared Wilson, but he's definitely going to be able to come in and make an impact from day one. He's not going to be as good as that. He's going to need more time to develop, but he's definitely going to be able to come in and be a solid starter for a team right away. Okay, moving on to the next guy that had a huge impact on his stock on day four was Ariante Irsay from Minnesota. This dude's a behemoth. He is huge. He's probably one of the biggest offensive linemen in this class since a lot of the offensive linemen in this class are seen more as guards and tackles. So they're a little bit smaller with a little bit of arm length, but this is one of the few surefire tackles in this class that's not going to be able to play any other position. He is a tackle, and if you're going to draft him, he is going to be your franchise tackle. He has great movement. in his tape, if you go and watch it, he's able to move guys off the ball. He's very strong, and he's able to just kind of maul people off the line of scrimmage in the run game. Before the combine, he was seen more of that second round pick. Some people have been flirting with him in the first round as one of the last picks, maybe to the Chiefs that do need a tackle, so that they could hopefully move Joe Thuney back inside. He could go to somebody like Minnesota. Minnesota needs desperate offensive line help, even though theirs is more on the interior. Somebody like that. Maybe to the Commanders need offensive line help to be able to help out Jaden Daniels in that area. So after the combine, he's kind of seen more as that late first round pick. I think he could go all the way up to the ceiling of the 23rd pick around that Green Bay area to be able to help out their offensive line or to be more in that Minnesota Vikings area in the 24th. He could go to the Texans around the 26th pick to be able to help out CJ Stroud. His vertical wasn't very good, 29 and a half, but he's a huge guy and you don't really expect him to be a vertical. He doesn't need to use a vertical as an offensive lineman. His broad jump was a 9.3, which is pretty good. Broad jump's able to show off his explosiveness and how he's able to pretty much maul people off the ball. Because when you're in the run game, you have to bring your hips all the way through it to be able to finish your blocks, and that's used in the broad jump. And his 40 time was a 5.01, which is very good for his size with how big he is and how lengthy he is. And that was one of the first things that you could tell him compared to all the other guys in this class that are considered more of a either undersized at tackle or could be seen as a guard. If you look at him and you've seen him next to him, he's pretty much just way bigger than all of them, and he's just a huge guy. And that's essentially what you could tell it immediately as soon as he was sitting there at the combine next to each other. And he was able to show off his technique. He had a great base as he was going through a lot of the drills. He didn't really move as well, but he's going to be a tackle. He's not going to be a guard, even though some teams are going to want their tackles to pull. May he could work on that with his fundamentals on being able to pull and block a little bit. But as a tackle, you're mostly more concerned with your pass rush and be able to maul people off the ball, and that's more of what he is and that's who he is. Moving on to the last guy here that we have that ended up raising his stock through day four of the NFL Combine, we have Donovan Jackson. Now, Donovan Jackson's an interesting one. He's definitely seen out all these guys that I mentioned as the lowest rated kind of guy, maybe besides Jared Wilson, but he's kind of in that Jared Wilson range. Before the combine, he was seen as a second round pick or a late second round pick. Now I think he's moved more into that early second round area. Some people are even talking about him going in the middle of the first round. I still think that his ceiling's more that late first round area, maybe to a Vikings. I really do like his fit in Minnesota with their help that they need on the interior. Now he didn't work out with any of the physical, so he didn't do a vertical, he didn't do a 40, but he didn't do broad jump, but he definitely did do his field drills, and at his field drills, he seemed very smooth and very fluent in his movement. It wasn't really a lot of extra movement or steps that were wasted. It was more of you're getting where you need to go right away, and as an offensive lineman, you don't want any of that extra movement because then you're going to be a second or two too late whenever you're either moving up to the next level or blocking your guy. Donovan Jackson's definitely an interesting one because he's played both guard and tackle. He's going to be drafted as a guard. So whatever team drafts him, he's most likely going to be a guard. So he's more the interesting one from Ohio State. He started out a guard, played guard at a very high level, and then Josh Simmons ended up going down about 6 games into the season. Then when Josh Simmons ended up getting hurt and going down, Donovan Jackson was able to kind of just bump out the tackle, and he played tackle just as good as Josh Simmons. So that was able to be seen there. Some people are even talking about he could go all the way up and kind of replace that Armand Membu kind of area since he's getting moved up kind of into the top 10. A lot of people think Donovan Jackson could kind of replace that area and maybe even get picked by the Dolphins at 13. He could end up going to the Seahawks. I know I've been mentioning the same team, but these are the areas that we're really looking for interior offensive linemen like guards in this class. So with him being a true guard, I think he's definitely going to be moving back to guard whenever he gets picked by whatever team picks him. And he's not really going to be too much a tackle, but he's going to be able to have that option to flex out the tackle if there's certain injuries that happen, just like he did at Ohio State. And he's a very great technique player. That's kind of why I think he didn't really participate in any of the physicals. Um, like the vertical 40 and broad jump, because he's not going to blow you away with that type of stuff, but his movement, his athletic ability with his feet and his technique and no wasted movements that he has and where he's able to get where he needs to go with his technique. I think that's kind of why he stayed away from all those and only did the on-field drills, and it really helped him out and benefited him. This draft class is going to be very interesting with the combine because a lot of the guys that didn't work out, and since there's not such a wide range from pick number 10 to pick number 50, they're all kind of rated kind of the same way. It's going to be interesting since the guys that didn't work out, they could fall down the board a little bit. And as we've seen with the offensive lineman, some of the guys that did work out could end up falling down. Will Campbell didn't have a crazy day. He had an okay day. Kelvin Banks didn't have a crazy day. So some of these guys like Armand Membu could end up being the first tackle off the board picked all the way up at number 4. So it's definitely gonna be interesting, and it kind of benefited these guys to work out. Josh Simmons being hurt still kind of hurt him a little bit. He could be falling down boards like somebody like Josh Connerly. Connerly could end up going over him. So it's definitely gonna be interesting, not only with the offensive line group, we've seen it with all the other groups throughout the days at the NFL Combine. So those are my biggest risers from day 4 and the last day of the NFL Combine. It ended up ending, and now we're going to be moving more into free agency. So if you like the video, please make sure to hit that like button down below and make sure to comment in the comment section with anything you agreed or disagree with that I talked about. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content I'm going to be putting out all the way up into the NFL draft. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't